My phone buzzed with a message from my husband. It said, "Can you lock the door?" I actually smiled because he always worried about my safety, but then I stopped. My smile disappeared. My husband was on a plane, 30,000 feet in the air with his phone turned off. So who was texting me from his number? Inside my house. Make sure you subscribe right now and comment where you're watching from, because what happened next still keeps me awake at night. My name is Isla Grant, and I never imagined something as small as a text message could change the way I see my entire life, my marriage, and my own home. It was a quiet Thursday night, the kind where nothing feels dangerous. My husband Mason had left earlier that evening on a business trip. He kissed me goodbye at the airport drop-off, told me he'd text me when he landed, and promised he would try to sleep on the plane. It was all normal, the kind of routine we had done many times. When I came back home, I changed into my pajamas, made a cup of tea, and curled up on the couch. I had just started a movie when my mom called to check in. She always got nervous when Mason was traveling, especially since we had gone through a difficult time recently. I told her I was fine, reminded her we lived in a safe neighborhood, and promised I had locked every door. She finally relaxed, told me she loved me, and said goodnight. For the first hour, the house was peaceful. The sound of the rain outside felt calming. I wasn't scared. I felt safe. I even remember thinking how nice it was to finally have a quiet evening to myself. I sent Mason one last message before he took off. It said, "I love you. Text me when you land." I put my phone face down on the coffee table and focused on the movie. About 45 minutes later, I heard the soft vibration of my phone. I assumed it was my husband letting me know the plane had taken off, or he had Wi-Fi on board. Without looking up, I reached for my phone and smiled as I unlocked it. That was the last normal moment I had that night. The message on my screen said, "Can you lock the back door?" At first, I didn't think anything of it. Mason always asked me things like that. He worried about me being alone. I even smiled and typed back, "Already locked, don't stress." I was about to hit send when I realized something. My thumb froze in midair. Mason's plane had taken off 45 minutes ago. We had specifically talked about the fact that once he was in the air, his phone would be off. He wouldn't have Wi-Fi until well into the flight. And even if he did, why would he be thinking about the back door 30,000 feet in the air? Slowly, I lowered my phone and turned my head toward the hallway that led to the back of the house. The back door was already locked. I had checked it twice, but now I couldn't stop staring in that direction. A strange feeling crept into me. Not panic, not yet. Just confusion mixed with something heavy, like a warning I couldn't hear but could feel. That's when another vibration buzzed against my hand. "Please lock it now. Don't ask questions." My breathing changed. I looked around the room, suddenly aware of every shadow. I typed one sentence without even thinking. "Mason, are you texting me from the plane?" This time, there was no reply. I stood up carefully, phone still in my hand, and stepped toward the hallway. Each step echoed just a little too loudly against the wooden floor. A part of me kept trying to rationalize it. Maybe he had Wi-Fi. Maybe it was a scheduled message. Maybe I had forgotten something. But deep down, my body already knew the truth before my mind did. When I reached the end of the hallway, I stopped. The back door was closed, perfectly still. I reached out slowly and touched the lock. It was secure. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, the message made my blood run cold. "Thank you. He's already inside." My heart dropped. The phone nearly slipped from my hand. There was only one thought left in my mind. I was not alone. My lungs tightened as I stared at the message, my mind spinning so fast that I could barely think straight. "He's already inside." Those 3 words didn't just scare me, they paralyzed me. I felt a rush of cold move through my body, as every instinct I had screamed that this was not a joke, not a misunderstanding, not something I could rationalize away. I forced myself to swallow and turn around slowly, afraid that if I moved too quickly, I would alert whoever was there. The house was silent, too silent, the kind of silence that doesn't feel empty, but occupied. My heart thudded hard in my chest, not in a rhythm of fear, but in warning. Whoever had sent that message wasn't trying to scare me. They were trying to warn me. which meant one terrifying thing. Whoever was inside my house wasn't just hiding. They were hunting. I felt the urge to run, but my feet wouldn't move. I needed information. I needed to see without being seen. I crept backward toward the kitchen where I knew there was a drawer with the emergency flashlight and Mason's spare phone. The only sound in the air was the soft buzz of the refrigerator, until it wasn't. It stopped. The hum of electricity cut out. The refrigerator turned off. The heater stopped. The digital clock on the microwave went dark. The house lost power. And with that, all noise died with it. My breath caught in my throat as dread flooded me. That wasn't an outage. Someone had cut the power. Fear tried to take over, but some part of me, maybe instinct, maybe survival, pushed back. Think. Do not freeze. I reached for the drawer slowly, trying not to make a sound, but before my fingers touched it, my phone buzzed one more time. The message wasn't from Mason's number. It was from an unknown number. Just 3 words. Do not hide. I felt tears sting in my eyes, not from sadness, but from the terrible realization that someone was not only inside my home, they could see me. They were watching me in real time. I didn't know whether to obey the message or do the opposite. I stood perfectly still, every sense heightened, as I tried to detect even the slightest movement in the air. Then I heard it, a slow, deliberate creaking from upstairs. I looked toward the staircase. It was dark, shadows stretching down the steps like reaching hands. Another step, slow, measured. Whoever was up there wasn't trying to be silent. They wanted me to hear them, as if they were announcing they were coming. Panic surged through me, but I forced myself to step backward quietly until my hand reached the kitchen counter. I grabbed the heaviest object I could find, Mason's metal thermos, and gripped it tightly. My phone buzzed again. This time, the message made me almost drop it. Go to the front door. Do not look up the stairs. My mouth went dry. This wasn't a taunt. It was a direction, a command to keep me alive, which meant someone else, someone on my side, was also watching. But who? And how did they know what was happening second by second? I moved toward the front hallway, stepping as lightly as I could, never taking my eyes off the staircase. Every hair on my arm stood up as I approached the door. My mind flashed with unwanted thoughts. What if the intruder was waiting right behind it? What if I unlocked it and let in something worse? But before I could decide what to do, a loud thud came from upstairs. Then another. It sounded like furniture being pushed over. A dragging noise followed. My whole body trembled. The noise wasn't random. It was moving toward the top of the stairs. I could almost picture someone standing in the hallway above, knowing I was frozen below. My instincts screamed to run outside, but my fear held me back. My phone buzzed again. Now! I lunged toward the front door, turned the lock, and yanked it open. A rush of cold night air hit my face. I stepped back in shock. No one was there. No neighbors. No police. Just darkness and a quiet street. My heart pounded in my ears as I stood on the threshold. 1 foot inside, 1 foot out. And then, just as I was about to step outside, I heard a whisper behind me, coming from the top of the stairs. Isla. It was my husband's voice. But Mason was 30,000 feet in the air, and his voice was calling me from inside the house. The sound of my husband's voice echoing from upstairs froze me in place so completely that even breathing felt dangerous. It wasn't a distant call or a muffled imitation. It was exactly his voice. The same tone he used when he would call me from the kitchen, asking if I wanted a cup of coffee, calm and casual, but in this moment it sounded terrifying, so wrong that my body reacted before my mind did. I stepped back inside and shut the front door without even realizing I'd done it, as if instinctively shielding myself from whatever was outside, when the real threat was inside. My phone buzzed again. A new text from Mason's number. Do not answer him. That's not me. My chest tightened. The voice upstairs called again. Isla, come here. Hurry. This time it was sharper. No warmth. I looked up at the stairs, but the darkness swallowed everything past the 6th step. My hands were shaking so hard the phone almost slipped from my fingers. My instincts split into 2. One screamed at me to run outside and never look back. The other held me in place, demanding answers. Why was someone mimicking my husband? How did they know his exact tone, his exact mannerisms? Unless it was him. Could he have gotten off the flight? Could something have happened on the plane? My thoughts swirled in panic as the voice grew impatient, deeper now, like someone struggling to keep control. Isla, I said come here. I took a single slow step back toward the kitchen, choosing distance, choosing caution. The phone buzzed once more, but this time it wasn't a text. It was a video call. My heart nearly collapsed when I saw Mason's face appear on screen. Live. He was clearly on the plane, the background showing the rows of seats, his face tense but composed. Isla, listen to me, he said in a low voice. Do not respond out loud. Just nod if you can hear me. I nodded, my eyes filling with tears. Not from sadness, but sheer relief that this was really him. Mason continued, voice urgent. There is someone in the house. He knows me. He knows everything about us. He is using my voice. He wants you to come to him. I swallowed hard and whispered, how is he doing that? Mason looked to the side nervously before replying, because he is my brother. My legs almost gave out. Mason's brother, Dylan, the one I had never met, the one Mason had told me years ago was no longer part of the family after disappearing from their lives. Mason had only spoken of him twice, both times with pain in his eyes. He had assumed Dylan had cut all ties and moved on, but he hadn't. He had been watching, listening, studying. Mason glanced off screen again and spoke quickly. He knows my voice because we sound almost identical. When we were kids, even our mother couldn't tell us apart on the phone. And Isla, he blames me for everything. I don't know how he got in, but you need to be silent and stay out of sight. He will use my voice to make you trust him. My skin prickled. Every part of me wanted to fall apart, but I forced myself to focus. This wasn't just an intruder. This was someone who knew our lives deeply enough to manipulate every memory, every instinct. Mason leaned closer to the camera. His voice dropped lower. He wants you to walk upstairs because he thinks you'll follow me, but you are not following me. You are walking into his trap. At that exact moment, the footsteps from upstairs started again, this time descending, slow, heavy. My breath caught in my throat. Mason saw the fear in my eyes and said, Isla, you cannot let him see you. Go to the basement now. There's something there I left in case this ever happened. It's behind the water heater. I blinked in confusion. You knew this could happen? Mason's face filled with regret. I hoped it never would. Please, trust me. Go. The footsteps reached the midpoint of the staircase. I could now see the silhouette of a man. His hand gripped the railing, the same way Mason did. My heart almost betrayed me in that moment. Everything in me screamed that this was my husband, that his voice, his shape, his presence was familiar and safe. But then he spoke again, and this time the voice slipped. The tone changed, cold, almost mocking. Isla, come here. Don't make me come find you. It was Mason's voice, but with something hidden beneath it. Something rotten, something cruel. I took a step sideways instead of forward, keeping my eyes locked on the figure. Then, holding my breath, I moved toward the basement door. The man on the stairs went still. I could feel his eyes tracking my movement, though I still couldn't see his face. Silent tension filled the air like a held breath. I reached the basement door, gripping the handle tightly. The phone was still in my other hand. Mason hurriedly said, Go now and lock the door behind you. Without giving myself time to second guess, I opened the door, stepped inside, and pulled it shut just as the footsteps quickened behind me. The handle rattled violently a second later. Then a voice on the other side of the door, Mason's voice, soft and gentle again, said, Why are you hiding from me? My hand tightened on the lock, but I didn't answer, because I finally understood something. I wasn't hiding from my husband. I was hiding from a copy of him, built out of hatred. The moment I locked the basement door behind me, the handle jerked violently as the intruder slammed against it, each hit sending vibrations through the thin wood into my hands. His voice came again, still in Mason's tone, but this time twisted with frustration. Isla, open the door. "You're scaring me," he said softly, mimicking concern so perfectly that for a split second my body almost reacted in empathy. But then the fake warmth vanished, and his next words dripped with quiet rage. "Don't make me break this door down. We both know how this ends." My heart hammered, but I didn't waste time freezing. I turned and hurried deeper into the basement, my breathing shallow but controlled. It was dark, lit only by the weak emergency bulb Mason had installed months ago after a storm outage. The space felt unfamiliar now, like I was walking into a tunnel I had never seen before in my own home. I reached the water heater and dropped to my knees, frantically feeling around the back just like Mason had instructed. My fingers hit something cold and metallic, a locked steel box bolted to the wall. My phone buzzed in my hand. Mason's voice came through the video call, urgent and quiet. "There's a keypad on the side. The code is your birthday backwards." I found the keypad, my fingers trembling as I typed in the date. The lock clicked open. Inside was a small black device, a flash drive, and a folded piece of paper with my name written on it in Mason's handwriting. I unfolded the paper with shaking hands and read, "If you are reading this, Dylan has found us. This device is the only thing that can expose him. Plug it into your phone and do not stop recording." My hands were ice. For years, Mason had feared this moment. He didn't just prepare. It was as if he had lived his life waiting for it. Before I could react, the basement door above burst open with a loud crack, wood splintering from the force. Heavy footsteps pounded down the stairs. The air shifted. I plugged the device into my phone as Mason instructed, and instantly, a video file popped up along with a live recording interface. Mason spoke through the call, his voice rough with emotion. "He's not coming for you to kill you," Mason said. "He's coming to make you disappear. He wants to take my life, my name, my family. You're the last piece he needs to erase me." I activated the recording. A live waveform glowed on my screen, detecting every sound. As I stood, flashlight in one hand and phone in the other, the intruder reached the bottom of the stairs. For the first time, I saw his face clearly. It was like looking at Mason. Same eyes, same jawline, but colder, harder, filled with something feral. His stare held no humanity, only possession. His lips curled into a chilling smile. "There you are," he said in a soft, pleased tone, as if he had finally found something that belonged to him. I raised the phone. "This is recording," I warned. "Whatever you do or say is now being tracked." The smile faded. His eyes flickered, not with fear, but recognition. He took one step forward, and in a voice that was no longer Mason's, he said, "That won't save you." But Mason had been right. As soon as the device activated, the lights in the basement flickered, and a low beeping sound echoed from the intruder's pocket. His eyes widened. The device wasn't just recording, it was pinging his location to authorities. A soft tone came from the phone, followed by Mason's pre-recorded voice. "Dylan Holt, this is evidence of your violation under federal code. Your biometric signature is now logged." Dylan lunged forward, his expression twisting in rage unlike anything I had ever seen. But I stepped back and held my phone like a shield. "They're coming," I told him. "It's over." He stopped mid-step, his chest rising and falling with rapid, angry breaths. For the first time, he looked unsure. Then, in a voice cold as ice, he said, "You think I'm the only one?" A crash sounded above us, my brother Caleb's voice booming as he shouted commands. Red and blue. Lights flashed through the tiny basement window. Dylan looked at the stairs, then back at me. For a second, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Hate, yes, but also a strange kind of sorrow, as if this moment had been inevitable since long before I ever knew he existed. Then he turned and ran up the stairs just as officers stormed in after him. I stood frozen in place, the recording still active, the device solid in my hand, and in that moment, I understood something with painful clarity. This wasn't the end of a nightmare. It was the beginning of a truth that had been buried for years, one that someone was willing to kill to protect, and I had just uncovered it. The moment Dylan ran up the stairs and disappeared through the doorway with officers in pursuit, The tension in my body finally snapped, and I dropped to my knees on the cold concrete floor of the basement. I was shaking uncontrollably, not just from fear, but from the realization that the life I knew only hours ago was gone. I wasn't a wife waiting for my husband to land anymore. I was the key witness in something far more terrifying and personal than I had ever imagined. The basement that had once held old holiday decorations and boxes of memories had transformed into the place where I discovered the truth about the man trying to steal my life. Above me, heavy footsteps, shouting, and the rapid thud of boots echoed through the house as officers secured every room. Within minutes, my brother Caleb appeared in the doorway, his chest rising and falling rapidly, his eyes searching the darkness until they landed on me. He rushed down the stairs, wrapped his arms around me, and held me tightly. For a moment, I let myself sink into the feeling of safety, the reassurance that I had survived what could have been the last night of my life. But even in that embrace, my eyes drifted to the phone still recording in my hand, the device Mason had hidden, the proof Mason had left behind, the undeniable reality that none of this was over. Caleb guided me upstairs as paramedics and officers filled our home. The silence of the night had been replaced by radios crackling, evidence bags being labeled, and neighbors watching from across the street with wide, frightened eyes. Outside, police cars cast waves of red and blue light across the wet pavement. The air was cold against my skin. I stood under a blanket a paramedic had wrapped around me and watched as officers searched the nearby woods with flashlights. Dylan had escaped. They confirmed he had fled on foot before the perimeter was fully secured. A female officer approached gently and asked me to recount everything that happened. As I spoke, I realized I wasn't trembling anymore. My voice was steady, controlled. It wasn't because I wasn't afraid. It was because I finally understood what was at stake, and fear had transformed into resolve. This was no longer about one night of terror. This was about my identity, my marriage, and the truth that had been kept from me for too long. When the officers were done taking my statement, they stepped aside to let my phone reconnect to the video call. Mason's face reappeared on screen. His eyes were red, not from crying, but from the helplessness of knowing his brother had come after me while he was trapped thousands of feet in the air. The moment our eyes met through the screen, something passed between us, an understanding that everything about our future would be built on what we did next, not what happened in the past. "I'm coming home," he said quietly. "And when I do, I won't just explain everything. We're going to end this." I nodded. There was no anger left in me, only purpose. I wasn't going to live in fear or let someone else write the story of my life. As dawn approached, the flashing lights finally dimmed, and officers began to leave. My mother arrived, tears streaming down her face as she held me, whispering prayers of gratitude that I was alive. Caleb stayed beside me, his hand on my shoulder, not as a brother offering comfort, but as an officer promising justice. And though the house had been declared temporarily unsafe, and though I knew the man pretending to be my husband was still out there, I felt something powerful rising inside me. This wasn't just survival. It was the beginning of me reclaiming my life, my identity, and my truth. As the sun rose over my street and the last police car drove away, I looked into the camera of my phone and spoke not just for myself, but for anyone who has ever felt powerless in their own home. I said, "Someone tried to replace my reality tonight, but I am still here, and I am not done, because this story doesn't end with fear. It begins with truth, and I am ready to uncover everything. If this story had you on the edge of your seat, and you want to know what happens next, make sure you subscribe right now and comment where you're watching from, because the hunt for the truth has just begun, and you need to be here when the next chapter drops."